Doom, 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 ba-da-dum, boom, 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 doom, 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 ba ba-da-dum, ba ba boom, boom, stum, ba chicka dum, ba doom, ba dum, ba dum, ba doom, ba dum, ba dum, ka-da-dum, bum, bum, chee-da, ba ba wow, 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 boom, down, ba ga ga
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
This is Graham.
And this is Ashkahn.
And today's question is, do you guys share financial metrics with your staff to drive transparency and have them feel more invested, in parentheses, pun intended,
Nice.
in the success of the center? I'm in the process of building a cohesive team with my staff.
Okay.
We have a visual metrics board in the employee area, and I'm not sure how far to take it. Thank you so much.
This question's like right up our alley. So-
Bread and butter. Bread and butter.
Yeah, we're all about sharing financial.
And I have no problem telling everyone out there that we are all about transparency. That's what we do. We live it. We breathe it.
Yeah,
That's why we make a podcast answering people's questions and just telling them all about our personal lives.
There's a growing
Personal Solutions
trend there's a growing trend in business, just regardless, I think, of what business you're into, that's leading towards like more transparency and businesses opening up their finances and stuff like that. And I think it's because
You're just saying it's the thing to do.
it works.
It's if you want to be hip and cool.
Like if you should get on this bandwagon here. I mean, I think it's happening because it is a successful way of like running a business. You know, I think people like having more transparency leads to your business being successful. Period. Like, I think it's the one key metric for success. That's all I'm saying.
We're like super biased on this. We've also done a fair amount of actual research into transparency and different models and things like that too. So, I would almost say transparency, especially just with your staff and the people you bring on, almost to the point of embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like if it feels like you're probably making a mistake by being as transparent with your staff, that's almost where I like to ride that line. So we're all about it. Like I think you should share information that your staff doesn't even want to hear.
More about it than you think. Like,
yeah.
Well, so here let's go over a couple things here.
Okay.
What could the downside be?
Well, let's even talk about what's transparency. Right, because when I it's a good. It's obviously to be see through, but
okay.
Sharing your income, sharing your expenses, sharing what other people in the company make, sharing what you make, sharing what your biggest struggles are, sharing problems that you're facing in the higher levels of the organization, sharing decision making even for extreme things like sharing who fires someone or sharing who's in charge of hiring. This kind of like transparency of, even when we're bringing on staff, we'll share the applications that the new staff members are submitting so that they have transparency of who's a potential to come on board the team. So kind of anything that you could share that you might normally feel like you need to keep close to the chest.
Right.
That's the kind of transparent stuff we're talking about.
And there's like a tendency in like conventional business wisdom to keep things close to the chest. There's this kind of like old business idea of, you need to keep a like veil between you and your staff, and there has to be kind of like an administrative.
If they ever learn what's really going on, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And
revolution.
So like I think a lot of this stems from much bigger businesses, right? The most common
I was going to say much stupider people, but yeah.
The most common thing I've heard against the idea of like sharing financial transparency, we'll kind of like we'll keep this to that for the second here, is that your employees could go work for another competing company and like know all your finances and share all your financial
or launch up their own business or
like
see how much profit that you're making, get disgruntled. I hear that one a lot. It's like people are afraid that once they like if they look at the financials of the business, the employees
like riot and demand a raise or something. Yeah. But so here's the deal. Like, first of all, we run float centers, right? Like, like I just don't think we have to be quite concerned about some sort of other float center trying to poach our employees to learn about our financials. Like, it's just not that type of thing. Like, no, we're not like somehow undercutting another float center by like manufacturing some weird product somewhere. Like we don't really have those same concerns.
And if you're like the VP of a float center or something, it's not like you're making $2 million a year while the staff members are making $12 an hour. You know, it's like the float center can't even support that.
Yeah.
So.
Most of the time, if you were to ask people what they think the profits of the company are, what they think like the, owners or admins or CEOs are making and things like that, they usually think the numbers are bigger than they actually are. So by not sharing your financials, you're like more often than not creating a like mentality that people think you're taking home even more profits, or there's even more discrepancy between the income of the people at the top of the company and at the bottom of the company. And by opening up your financials, people are like, oh, wow, I didn't realize there was all these expenses for that, and like this is what the actual profits are. And it's much more often a like more humbling kind of realization of reality than people think it is in their head. So
what do you, I mean, I was trying to think of what I even view as the actual downsides of transparency. I mean, it takes more time.
It takes time.
Like, and like being transparent doesn't just mean opening up your QuickBooks account to your staff so that they can go in there. Like, because people don't know what they're looking at or how things are categorized. Yeah. So really there's this extra layer of work that goes into pre-digesting the really financials that you're releasing so that your staff can even understand it. Yeah,
the thing is like people tend to not take extra time out of their day. Like people aren't so interested in your finances, especially in a float center, that they're gonna sit there and like look through your profit and loss report or like dig through your QuickBooks or something like that. Like that stuff takes extra time. It takes extra know-how. Like if the first time you probably looked at that information, you were like, what is this? Like, what am I looking at? I'm sure I
came away with like 20 wrong conclusions because I had no idea what I was looking at.
So like for this to work, like there's a difference between kind of like transparency where you just like things are transparent technically because anyone could go look at things. Like, I don't think that's like, I think it's a little nice because it shows trust in your employees and that creates a better culture. But I don't think it is as powerful as actually putting in the time to kind of, really present the information to people in your company. Like the whole benefits of transparency is people having a better financial sense of how your company works. That allows them to make better decisions and have more autonomy. It allows them to feel a little bit more like they're a part of the business.
You're skipping ahead to where, so I was thinking try to think of any of the negatives and then go into the benefits that we like.
Okay.
But I have that one. It takes time.
It takes time.
What else
Again,
is a negative? And time is money, so it takes money.
But like downsides are things that are just for like a way bigger business or a different business.
Because I don't view, and we've been transparent with our finances for pretty much since the day we opened.
Yeah.
And we've gotten better at it and better at digesting this information and making sure that it's actually available to people over the years. And to be honest, I can't think of any downside other than it takes us a little more time and effort to put these together and make sure that people are presented with it. Like, it's only upside.
It like weirds people out for like a day when they're new to our company. They're like, you're just going to post your payroll, everybody's payroll? Like,
and even that I consider as an upside. It's like you get to surprise people and change their view of how the world works, and that's kind of cool. So,
yeah, I don't know. I really think it's just from
overcoming fear, but that's an upside too. Like you have to confront your fear and overcome it to be transparent, which is cool.
I guess I understand the other side. Like if we were a big business with more trade secrets or things like that, like, but even those companies seem to have overcome that, and it's not really as big of a deal as anyone thinks. But like outside of those sort of concerns, I'm not actually sure what the potential like real big downsides are.
Or the just real ones that we faced over 7.5 years of having open, transparent financials.
I guess if you're like embezzling funds, someone might catch you.
Catch you a little easier.
Or if you are like grossly paying yourself so much more than everybody else in the company, like
you want to keep that a little secret.
That's gonna look bad.
Well, you can fix the books before you share them.
You gotta cook them.
Cook them well done. Okay, so upsides. Then I had interrupted you before going through some upsides.
There's a lot of upsides, but it really, it does take some effort to try to really make them happen. And that takes you putting time into like making the finances digestible, really. What this person was asking in their question sounds like the right track. They were putting some sort of board in their back room with information on it. Like that's
yeah.
What we do is every month.
Vision board, I think they said, yeah.
Every month we take a we just take the basics of our finances and we post them to our
metrics board. I don't know why I
metrics
said
board.
vision
Yeah,
board.
vision
Metrics is like way more
like
serious.
nice
Sorry.
pictures of pillars
Sorry,
and
out there. I
stuff.
didn't mean to
like,
say that your metrics
sound
board
right.
is a vision board.
So metrics board, like that's the right kind of idea because it really like you want to put that stuff in front of people's faces just so that like in the normal course of them working at your place, they will come across it and look at it. We rely a lot on our logbook in our Helm software. That's our like main stream of communication. And so once a month we do a very like simple financial report that we post to there. And it's nice to like really think about what are like the most basic numbers that you want people to see. So we just take our income and we just break it down between like floats, memberships, and retail.
And gift cards, yeah.
And like that just gives us a real quick breakdown of where that money's coming from. And like that makes people realize like what a chunk of our monthly income is memberships. And that maybe like pitching memberships is going to make the business stronger financially. And then with our expenses, we just break it down into, normal supplies and payroll and kind of repair and maintenance.
Yep, marketing.
Yeah, and kind
just
of like
the really broad categories
admin
like
stuff,
that, yeah.
like lawyers and tax attorneys and all that sort of stuff. And again, that gives people a sense of like how much payroll is a chunk of our expenses. And when they think about like wanting different wages or stuff like that, they have something to base their ideas off of. They don't just sit there and think about what they're getting paid in a void of other information. They can see how much payroll is and what it is in the context of the finances of the business. And so that's really nice. And we also include a couple other things like how many floats we do each month or how many returns, like a few other things that we just like, hey, this is useful information for people to go in front of people's eyes. Because at the end of the day, like I think what happens is when you're running your business, you look at these numbers intuitively on your own. And after a long time of looking at these over and over and over again, you start to build like
a sense.
Yeah,
like
an intuition, a float sense. You build an intuition. You have a gut feeling. So when like big budgeting decisions come up, it's not really like you're sitting down and like crunching the numbers and manipulating spreadsheets and stuff like that. Like much more often for businesses of our size, we just hear numbers and we're like, like I don't know, like that sounds manageable, or maybe that sounds a little high, and that those feelings that we have come from seeing those numbers just casually over the course of a long time. And so we're trying to give our employees that same gut feeling, the ability to just kind of like get our numbers into their bones a little bit. That's really what I view as kind of the main goal of it.
Yeah, I'll also say I think it's kind of like 1/3 of like a trifecta of cool things you can do to make it so that you have less turnover and a more highly effective staff and happier staff and things like that, right? So there's financial transparency and just transparency in general, like we kind of touched on at the beginning. There's giving people ownership as well, which all of a sudden, if you're transparent about what's going on financially and people can actually make their own decisions and financial decisions and stuff like that, that becomes really useful to tie into it. And the other one is some kind of stake in the business itself, like some kind of profit sharing or some kind of way where if the business is doing well, then they're also doing well.
Yeah,
and I would say like it works
toughest for float centers, I think.
What was that?
I think that third one is just the most difficult.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of float centers that aren't super profitable. So when you're sharing like $20 at the end of a month, but it can be a dinner, it can be, like if you hit certain margins, then everyone gets to celebrate together. But
it's good things to keep in mind. But yeah, the kind of more traditional businessy ways of going about that, or even like giving people like equity in the company and stuff like that, just is a little bit more difficult on the scale.
Equity is I mean, super complicated and crazy and stuff like that. But you can do phantom stock, you can do profit sharing, you can just take people out to a dinner if you're above a certain threshold for a month.
Yeah, dinners
and
are great.
And that's the same thing, right?
Like in terms of cost to happiness, like factors, like taking people to a nice dinner feels awesome, but it's kind of the same as giving everyone like $50 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But it feels way more awesome than getting a $50 bill.
But so hear me out. So hear me out though. with those other two things in place, all of a sudden financial transparency does a lot more, right?
Uh-huh.
Like it, in order to make decisions, you kind of need to know what's going on with the finances, and in order to like really care about the finances, having some kind of reward that comes along with the finances doing well, or with certain metrics being hit, or new memberships that are gained that month, or whatever it is, means you're actually paying attention and you want to know what's going on with the finances of a company. And any one of those I think are great by themselves, but in order to get the full value, I do think there's this bigger sense of employee empowerment that the financials are but one part of.
Yeah, I mean, really, like you're building a culture, right? And so the pieces all feed into that kind of what.
In our case, a sham culture.
Yeah, they don't realize how much we are gonna rip the rug out from under them one day. But yeah, like this whole idea of like trusting your employees, empowering people, giving people like the ability to make good decisions. That all leads to better customer service. Like all that, it's propped up by all these different pillars of this stuff. So if you just do one and you don't do anything else, like it feels at odd with the other ways that you're running your business. And when you start doing all these things together, that's what creates a type of environment that people do good jobs in and are happy to come to work in. So
yeah, and I think you're on the right track. I think your metrics board is a great idea. I think that
maybe put a vision board next to it, get that going.
A vision of what the metrics could be one day. Right, but yeah, like I think to us, you'd be hard pressed to find stuff that we wouldn't feel comfortable sharing out there or make public, And again, if you feel that fear, it's something that you don't feel like sharing. See if you can push past it. See what happens when you do share it. And when your entire business falls apart, don't blame us, and we have insurance if you do.
And I like ask your staff, ask them what information they think would be useful.
Yeah.
Like get some feedback going and don't you have to iterate. You're not going to get everything perfect the first time you try to put something together. Like you'll just have better ideas and remove some metrics and add more metrics. And, the whole thing's a process. But
and honestly, you might be surprised how little people care. And especially if all you're doing is financials, there's no reward for those financials going up or down. It's actually surprising to me how much people are like, no, I just clock in and clock out. Like I appreciate that you want to be honest, but I don't take the time to go.
It's almost like the better everything's going, the less people seem to care. So it's nice to like have those things in place, and that way, like if things do start to go a little bit rougher for people, like the things will be in place to like give you signs earlier, get people talking earlier. It's a nice kind of safety net, even when people don't care in the moment.
So yeah, share it all. Yeah. Samples of your signature, social security number.
Yeah.
Just put it all up there.
We just post our fingerprints, up on a piece of paper that people can take, and
personal liability board right next to that vision board.
It's a lot of boards. So yeah, but good. We believe in you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
And as always, if you have any other questions you want to ask us, we will give completely open and honest answers. Just go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast.
And we'll answer them.
Honestly. Openly.
All right. Well, we will talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. It's been a pleasure hanging out here on the podcast.
This has been really nice.
All right. Good night. Just lay down now. Take a little nap. Shh.